Welcome to Voices in Mystery. I'm your host, Nancy Carlson. My first guest today is someone I've had on the show, I don't know, 6 or 8 times. It's Mary Monica Pulver, and she is AKA Monica Ferris, so some of her books will say Monica Ferris. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I think people must think of you as the hat lady because you often wear hats.
Often. I love hats. I have a great collection of hats.
Well, you look great today. Thank you
you
so much. You're from Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
Yes.
And have lived there a long time?
About 30 years.
Oh, that is a long time. What have you brought for us today? What is your latest book, for example?
This is
sampling.
A sampling.
Good. Let's look at the sampling.
I've written this as 3 different authors. This is Mary Monica Pulver. It is Murder at the War. This was my first published book.
Oh,
this
boy.
is a small publisher has reissued it, so it was fun. It's still one of my favorite books.
What's that gold medallion on it? Is that an award winner?
An MBA award winner, yes.
Great.
So from the Minnesota Book Publishers Award. So that was fun. Thank you. This is the second book in the second series. It's called The Servant's Tale. I wrote these in collaboration with Gail Fraser. She is now continuing the series alone, and she's doing very well, which is nice. This one was nominated for an Edgar.
And she's known as Margaret Fraser.
Margaret Fraser. Margaret Fraser, yeah. When we were making up the pseudonym, I said, I'll make up the first name, you make up the last. So I picked Margaret and she picked Fraser. And then she later took Fraser as her own last name, so that was kind of fun.
What else?
And this is the current series. This is as Monica Ferris. It's a cozy, very traditional cozy mystery. And when I started it, I thought I would do 3. I got a book contract for 3, and I thought I would do 3. And I'm working on the 13th.
Oh, my goodness.
It just won't die.
Well,
Thank
it
God.
is, I guess I'd say, a knitting series. Is that correct?
Well, it's needlework, all kinds of needlework. Counted cross stitch, needlepoint, crochet, punch needle, lots of it, lots of different things.
So what is the setup for the cozy? Is it in a tiny little town in Minneapolis area?
Yes, it's a little town called Excelsior, which is right outside of Minneapolis. It's about a woman who inherits a needlework shop when her sister is murdered. And because she's newly divorced and broke, has no place to go, she figures, well, it's got stock, it's got employees, how hard can it be, even though she doesn't know very much about needlework.
Oh, no.
And she stubbornly keeps the shop open, and because she does, she solves her sister's murder, and that sets off the series.
So this is an amateur sleuth.
Amateur sleuth, yes.
And why do you call it a cozy? Are all of the suspects in this little town?
Oh, yes, actually they are. Well, no. No, they're from the Minneapolis area, Minneapolis-St. Paul area. It's a cozy because they're ordinary people. We're not talking about professional crooks here. These are ordinary people who just get caught in a situation and they think of murder as their only way out.
Likewise, you're not talking about a licensed private investigator.
No,
either.
she doesn't carry a gun. She doesn't know what she's doing most of the time. She just sort of stumbles over clues, which I find very unbelievable, so I'm amazed that the series is doing so well.
So do you always start with a dead body or in the first
yes.
chapter or such?
Mostly I do. When I'm starting to write them, I start with the body. I figure out who is murdered and why and how and then who. And then from there I go to the rest of the story.
How long can this go on? You said 13, and you seem surprised.
I am surprised. I'm decimating this unfortunate little town. I'm having to dig up old bodies now. They raise a boat from the bottom of the lake and there's an old skeleton on it because, you know, I'm killing the people in this town.
Can't you build a new subdivision where some people move in and then somebody there can die?
That's what I wanted to do. In fact, the one that's coming out in December, Tie-Dye, and it's spelled T-H-A-I-D-I-E.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. I have fun with these titles. They're really fun. I wanted to send my heroine to Thailand because we had gone. We spent 4 weeks in Bangkok. Ooh. It was fabulous. It was a wonderful time. And of course I thought, as I always do, I could set a mystery here. And that's what I wanted to do. And my editor said, no, Excelsior is a character in the series, and an important one. So the series has to stay in Excelsior. So what I had to do was have somebody come back from Bangkok with a mysterious artifact, and it leads to all kinds of complications.
Oh.
So that was, and it was that business of Excelsior has to be in Excelsior.
But tie-dye is also a craft with fabric.
It's a craft with fabric, yes.
So that connects
so all my
to
titles,
your series.
All my titles have to have some kind of needlework. In fact, I'm offering a prize. I will give a free book with that name to anyone who can give me a name I can use. And it's not as easy as it seems. It has to be 4 or fewer words. It has to be a needlework term, and it has to have a threat in it, like knitting bones, cruel world, framed in lace, stitch in time, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to run dry. I need some more titles.
So what's left that you haven't done? There's counted cross stitch that you've done, and tie-dye and knitting, crocheted.
Crochet, I haven't done crochet yet.
Okay.
And I'm learning blackwork for the one I'm writing now.
Oh, yeah.
Blackwork is a form of embroidery that looks the same on both sides of the fabric. So you have to do stitching and then back stitch very carefully so that you don't. It's difficult. It makes me think of hardanger, and I hate hardangers. So I haven't written a hardanger yet, and I could, because if you break it properly, it's hard anger.
Oh.
Yes,
boy,
I know.
That's a great title.
I know, but I'd have to learn hardanger, and I don't particularly
you feel
want to.
it's necessary that you learn this craft in order to do
Well, you
it?
can't talk about something you don't know anything about. The first rule of writing is write what you know. And if you don't know, then you have to go and find out. And I'm not particularly fond of going to find out about hardanger. I've taken 3 classes in it, and I still can't do it.
That's fascinating. There's red work, too.
Red work is very much like black work. It's about essentially the same thing. The book I'm going to write after black work is Buttons and Bones, which is easy. That's not so bad. Somebody finds an old root cellar in a cabin they bought that they didn't realize had a root cellar, and there's buttons and bones down in there.
Oh, so that'll help. Those are clues that
Those are
help
clues.
solve
Yes,
who it is.
Who it is, yes.
Must have been female. I don't know. But so
maybe.
you, besides that series, the Needleworking Sleuth series, you have background in medieval, which you did with Gail Fraser. Yes. Do you continue any of the knowledge that you have in medieval? Do you use that anymore?
Once in a while, I'll have a character who knows something about it. I'm continuing it on my own because I'm interested in it. The 15th century just endlessly fascinates me. I don't know why. 15th century England. I have a collection of coins. I have one from every reign from William the Conqueror to Elizabeth I. And when you get each one, then you have to learn a little bit about the monarch. So I'm learning English history that way, doing it that way. But I get bored after Elizabeth. The James and the Charleses, they're boring.
Let's go back to the first book that you talked about and tell us about that series.
This was a series about a police officer who was an investigator in a fictional small Illinois town named Charter, and his wife raises Arabian horses. So for this one, I learned how to set up an Arabian stallion to be shown at halter in an arena, which is not exactly useful because I've never owned a horse, but I used to ride a lot. And this one, I learned a lot about the medieval agricultural year as it was practiced in the 15th century, and about the Holy Rule of St. Benedict, which, by the way, is a very interesting thing. It's very short and it's very wise.
What is it?
Well, St. Benedict founded the Benedictine order, and back when there were only 3 numbers in the years. I think it was like the 8th century, maybe even earlier. And it's about how to organize a community of males at first, of course, and then the women set up their own nunneries, and they followed the same rule. And it was based on 3 things: prayer, study, and work. And you had to do all 3. There was a time set aside for each of them. And they prayed the 7 hours. They got up in the middle of the night and prayed matins and lauds, which was very long. And then it goes right through the day. They'd stop every so often, every few hours, and pray, said prayers. But then they had to labor. And the study was the study of Holy Scripture. And it was a very nice life because it was withdrawn from the world, so there was all these wars going on around them and all the rest of it, and they had their own little safe, quiet world in there. And they had a guest house. Anybody could stop and stay the night and be fed and have a bed to sleep on. And there's a Benedictine abbey right up the road from where I live, and they still do that. You can still go there, and they will put you up for the night and feed you breakfast in the morning.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
It is.
It's really great.
You bring so much to our show. Thank you so much for having been a guest again on Voices in Mystery. We've been talking to Mary Monica Pulver, who is AKA Monica Ferris, so look for her books on the shelf. Thank you so much.
Thank you.